Hello everyone, you are listening to Scenecraft. From opening shots to long takes and epilogues, we examine our favorite scenes from cinema here on the podcast. I'm Cody, here with my fellow gourmands,
Mark
and Connor.
You can find Scenecraft on most social media platforms at Scenecraft Podcast for the latest news on the show. Today we'll be discussing the recently released The Taste of Things, or La Passion d'un Bouffon, directed by Tran Anh Hung. This movie is quintessentially French, so I'm just going to go ahead and apologize for the pronunciations in advance. Connor, you're definitely the resident Francophile, so hopefully you can help us out here.
I'll try. I'll use my high school French as best as I can.
Yeah. So, as usual, let's begin with our brief What We've Been Watching segment, Quick Takes.
Speak quickly.
Quickly, thank you.
Quickly, come on. Hurry up, quicker.
Way quicker.
Okay, I'll say it fast.
So, what have you guys been watching?
I'll start us off with The Greatest Night in Pop, which was directed by Bao Nguyen and was released in 2024. The logline reads, on January 25th, 1985, dozens of the era's most popular musicians gathered in Los Angeles to record a charity single for African famine relief. Setting egos aside, they collaborated on a song that would make history. So for anybody unfamiliar, the song referenced in the tagline is We Are the World. And putting that actual song aside, which I'm not even the biggest fan of,
Right.
The list of stars and artists that contributed to this song is absolutely insane. Michael Jackson, Bob Dylan, Stevie Wonder, Bruce Springsteen, Lionel Richie, Ray Charles, Cyndi Lauper, the list goes on.
Wow.
And this documentary was fascinating for me on several levels. And it partly focuses on the actual logistics of the recording session, which took place immediately after the American Music Awards, because they knew all the artists were going to be present to be there in the studio. Otherwise, they'd have to work around touring schedules and everything else. And then the other portion of the documentary uses the raw footage that they shot of the recording session itself. And this would go on to make the basis of the music video for the song. And honestly, these artists look really uncomfortable. They're tired. It looks super hot in there with the number of people, the lighting. They don't have AC because that would interfere with the microphones picking up their voices. And this is in addition to the fact that these artists were probably accustomed to having an entire recording studio to themselves and their band. As you guys can imagine, singing is kind of like this personal moment, and it can take a lot for an artist to deliver a vocal performance that they want or that they're happy with. And so instead, they're shoulder to shoulder with some of the best talent around. So as a viewer, you get a rare peek into the vulnerability of these artists in a way that I haven't really seen before.
Cool.
It's a super easy watch. I would recommend The Greatest Night in Pop, which is now streaming on Netflix.
Cool. We'll have to check this out.
I also watched Society of the Snow, which was directed by J.A. Bayona and was released last year in 2023. The logline reads, the flight of a rugby team crashes on a glacier in the Andes. The few passengers who survive the crash find themselves in one of the world's toughest environments to survive. So this movie is also currently streaming on Netflix and was released late last year. And unfortunately, I got around to watching it after our top 10 episode, which is a shame because I think it honestly could have been a easy contender for my list. For those unaware, this is based on a true story of Flight 571 that crashed into the Andes Mountains. And I was largely unfamiliar with the story, so I found the depiction especially grueling, but incredibly well made. This film is a harrowing adventure that does not shy away from the horrific realities encountered during this event. In addition to just being a filmmaking triumph, it also feels like a fitting tribute to the survivors and those who sadly passed away from this event. The level of detail in this movie is mind-boggling. So if you're up for a survival epic that is equally upsetting as it is amazing, be sure to give Society of the Snow a watch. It's incredible what human beings are able to live through.
Oh, this is at the top of my watch list right now. I've been meaning to watch this for weeks, and I keep texting you guys like about to watch it, and then I don't.
Yeah, you got to see it, Cody. It's really, really great. And
It
again,
is.
like you said, the attention to detail is tough to watch. I mean, they do a great job in recreating the event.
Mm-hmm. What have you been watching, Connor?
So a few weekends back, I watched After Hours, directed by Martin Scorsese from 1985.
Nice.
And the logline reads, an ordinary word processor has the worst night of his life after he agrees to visit a girl in Soho he met that evening at a coffee shop. So I was blown away by how good this is. I think it's a perfect movie. And Mark, I know you saw this recently too, so we'll need to discuss. The movie is basically a series of unpredictable events that take place, quote unquote, after hours in New York City, and it's all over the course of one long single night. The things that happen are so random and unexpected that I was glued to my seat. I don't want to give too much more away because its simplicity is kind of the magic of the film, but it's one of those timeless movies that still feels fresh. And sometimes a movie reveals itself to be an origin point for other movies, and this is definitely one of those to me. I think it's a better version of movies like Beau is Afraid, Punch Drunk Love, Good Time, those fever dream type of movies. I definitely see this as a big source of inspiration for those. If you're up for a quick, darkly fun 80s movie, I would highly, highly recommend checking out After Hours. It's a hidden gem.
I bought this the other day, like a digital copy, with the intention to start it. And again, just didn't get around to it. But I have it purchased and ready in the queue.
It's a really short movie too, so it's easy to watch.
Mm-hmm. On the other end of the spectrum, I saw Anselm, directed by Wim Wenders from 2023. And the logline reads, Anselm Kiefer is one of the greatest contemporary artists. His past and present diffuse the line between film and painting, thus giving a unique cinematic experience that dives deep into an artist's work and reveals his life path. This is a new one from Wim Wenders, who also put out Perfect Days last year, and it's shot in 3D.
Oh.
Like After Hours, it clocks in around 90 minutes, but in this case, it feels a little more like 3 hours.
Oh.
I struggled with this one because obviously Anselm Kiefer is a talented, important artist, but this movie really blurred the line for me between a documentary about an artist's life and a parody of what we think of when we hear the term fine artist. To me, it did a better job showing how completely detached the artist has become from the real world. He's insulated himself in this giant compound that he's turned into an art exhibition in and of itself, with a full team of assistants that adhere to his every whim as he creates these large-scale paintings and sculptures. The film is pretty abstract and meandering, which I actually found to be boring and a little too highbrow for my taste. The 3D was cool, but I don't think it necessarily added a ton to the experience. I totally get that I just might not be the right audience for this, so let's just say this one wasn't for me. And unfortunately, I would not recommend watching Anselm unless any of that sounded appealing to you.
I don't know. I'm kind of curious now.
It'd also be a whole other experience not to get the 3D. I feel like you probably saw it in its best format, so that says a lot.
It definitely adds something. It just doesn't add a ton for me, but it was cool, the 3D part of it.
So you saw it with 3D glasses on, like in the theater?
Correct. Yep.
Maybe it would be cooler as like an Apple Vision Pro type.
Yeah, I could see that being super
exclusive.
cool. I mean, I will say I've never seen a documentary in 3D, so that was very interesting. So a cool way to use the format, but I just didn't really care for the movie itself, unfortunately.
No, fair enough.
But how about you, Cody? What have you seen lately?
So I recently saw Argylle, directed by Matthew Vaughn. This just came out recently. The logline reads, a reclusive author writes best-selling espionage novels that begin to mirror the covert actions of a real-life spy organization, blurring the line between fiction and reality. In 2023, I saw the trailer for this movie roughly 15 times in theaters. Universal and Apple really shelled out the marketing money for it, and just overall production budget. I think it was something on the level of $200 million.
Wow.
And the combination of Dua Lipa, Henry Cavill, and what I thought was a really cool rendition remix of Suspicious Minds made Argylle look really loud and fun. Dua Lipa and Henry Cavill are in the film for a cumulative 10 minutes, and Suspicious Minds is not used in the film.
Oh, no.
It's not loud. It's not fun. Argylle may actually be the worst original IP I've seen in a theater in the 2020s so far.
Oh, no.
But at the same time, I also do need to see Madam Web to really make that call. The premise of Argylle alone is absolutely ludicrous, and it's destroyed by a bewildering plot that requires otherwise talented actors to deliver pages and pages of ridiculous exposition. I love Bryce Dallas Howard. I love Sam Rockwell. Cranston, O'Hara, Cavill. These are some of my favorite actors of all time. I cannot believe what they are asked to do in this movie. There is zero texture and weight to the set pieces and action choreography, and that, for me, is really the bare minimum that Argylle should have given us in this kind of film. I've really liked some of Matthew Vaughn's movies in the past. I'm hoping that his next will be better. Do not go watch Argylle. I just cannot imagine anyone thinking that the 2 hour and 20-minute runtime is worth it.
I'm honestly really tempted to watch this once it hits streaming. For free, obviously. I don't want to pay for it, but just
Do not pay.
Like, my interest is piqued for how bad you say it is.
You know, maybe I'm just I'm not being open and trying to have enough fun with it. I would be really curious to get a second opinion on this one.
Sure.
And seeing
Well, I
if
mean, the
I'm just-
reviews are not good
No,
for the
no.
movie.
Right.
No.
Isn't
And
it also based on a book by an author that hasn't really come out into the public?
It is based on the book Argylle, which was basically simultaneously released. It came out, I think, like a few weeks before the movie came out. So it's not
Okay.
some like old book adaptation.
Got it.
It's basically a marketing ploy because it's written by the reclusive real life Ellie Conway, played by Bryce Dallas Howard, but supposedly a real author.
Interesting.
However, I think it was recently revealed that it's actually two different people
Oh,
who wrote the book. Neither are named Ellie Conway. It's like a pen name. It seems to have been just synchronicity with the film.
got it. Well,
Don't watch Argylle.
thanks for doing the
Please.
work for us on that one.
Sure thing. Then, complete change of pace. At the recommendation of both of you, I watched the Caine Mutiny Court Martial,
Yes.
directed by William Friedkin. This came out last year, 2023. The logline reads, "A lawyer reluctantly defends an officer of the Navy who took control of the USS Caine from its captain while caught in a violent sea storm." I've said a bunch of times on the show, but I love a good courtroom procedural, and this is 2 straight hours in a courtroom.
Yep.
I'm so glad you guys recommended this to me. It was Friedkin's last film before he passed, and while it probably won't have the staying power of An Exorcist or A Sorcerer, it is thrilling. You hang on every word from these highly competent characters and actors playing them, and there's so much military jargon and detail to unpack here. This is one of the rare cases in cinema, obviously a hugely visual medium, where watching actors perform an overwhelming amount of exposition works very well, almost like a play captured on film.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense because Friedkin actually adapted this from Herman Wouk's 1953 play of the same name, which is based on his own 1952 novel. So aside from the flat look of the movie and a title that I think actively repels viewers,
Yeah.
I'd recommend checking out the Caine Mutiny Court Martial, it's a mouthful, which is streamable on a bunch of different platforms. And this is not to be confused with the 1988 TV movie with the same name. I think they should have just titled this movie Mutiny. Just really nice and clean.
Yeah, I buy that.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of a mouthful.
Yeah, you probably want to pay homage to the source material, and maybe there are like licensing or registration problems with it, but like the Caine Mutiny Court Martial, it's going to be really hard to convince anyone to see that. Yeah, I just don't think it's doing like the great craft and script any favors by calling it that, but I could be wrong.
It has one of my favorite endings that I saw all year. It's a really powerful ending, and it feels like a pretty fitting send-off for Friedkin. I don't want to give too much away about the ending, obviously, but super impactful way to wrap up the film and a change of pace from everything that leads up to that point.
Yeah, agreed.
Cody, did you know for insurance reasons that Guillermo del Toro was on set next to William Friedkin every day? In case Friedkin had like a health episode, del Toro would have picked up as director and finished it.
Yeah, that's a like he.
So he was there throughout like the whole filming process.
I would have loved to have seen a del Toro version of this to see at least what it looked like.
Right. It would have been much different, I'm sure.
They're all monsters, literally and figuratively.
Well, thank you guys. And now let's dive into our discussion about The Taste of Things, directed by Tran Anh Hung and starring Juliette Binoche and Benoît Magimel, among many others.
De lard fumé, des champignons.
Tu vas voir la crème fraîche?
Le carré de veau, s'il vous plaît. Le Napoléon de la gastronomie, le prince, le roi.
Du persil.
Il y a aussi du paprika et on ajoute de la gelée de groseille. C'est très bon ce qu'on a fait. Mais tout ça me donne l'impression d'un brouillon d'une esquisse.
The logline for the film reads, "A long romance between a gourmand and his personal cook gives rise to dishes that impress even the world's most illustrious chefs." Let's start with our spoiler-free section. Connor, this was your second favorite film of 2023, so let's change up the usual order. What did you think of The Taste of Things?
So as you guys know, I saw this for the first time way back in October at the Chicago International Film Festival, and Hung, the director, was there for a Q&A, which was awesome. Being my number 2 film of 2023, needless to say, I absolutely loved this movie, and I'm so glad you guys have finally seen it. I was hyping it up a lot, so I was really nervous to hear what you both thought of it. And I'm so happy we're doing an episode on it. This movie deserves to be celebrated, and more people need to be introduced to it. Hung won the Best Director at Caine last year for this, but unfortunately, it did not get nominated for anything at the Oscars this year, which is shocking to me, and I feel like it's a huge miss on their part.
Yeah.
A lot of great nominees this year, of course, but this movie definitely deserves to be recognized on a larger platform. I actually went to see this movie again last night just so it was fresh for me, and I fell in love with it all over again. This movie is an absolute feast for the senses. Get ready for a lot of food puns throughout this whole episode, I'm sure, with soul poured into every frame. I think food is simply the vehicle for love in this story. These characters communicate through the making and tasting of food. It's culinary art with a capital A, and that art is depicted with master level filmmaking on a visual and emotional level. It's a beautiful film. Can't wait to dig into this feast with you both. There's a lot to gobble up here.
Bon appetit.
All right.
What did you think, Mark?
I'll start off by saying that my relationship with cooking has evolved a lot in the past 5 years or so. And I went from barely being able to fry an egg to feeling a lot more comfortable trying new dishes. And that being said, I think the only position I would qualify in this film would be like the dishwasher. But one thing I have realized is how long a dish can take to prepare. And you have to love, or at the very least enjoy, the process. Otherwise, the finished product will reflect it and it'll just taste bland. And I think The Taste of Things shows us what it's like to be functioning on the maximum level of the culinary spectrum. It highlights the flair, the artistry, and even chemistry that can go into making a truly transcendent dish. The film is also a love story between two characters that function independently, but become something entirely different when working together. There isn't much dialogue in this movie because a lot of the intimacy takes place in the kitchen. I think The Taste of Things ultimately succeeds in fusing together a love story with an ode to the culinary arts. And just like a great meal, it never feels rushed, and I just couldn't help but admire the attention to detail.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cody, what about you?
For what this movie is trying to do, I think this is as close to perfect as I could ask for. I really love this in every way possible, not only for the reasons you guys have discussed, but also just for the feeling of gratitude you get from the film, sitting there as the credits roll. The idea that we often take the beauty and meaning of food for granted, just as we instantly strike a match and take fire for granted, or we tap a screen and have takeout brought to our front door. So much of our modern culture screams quick, loud, and cynical. And to see a film set in a time and place where you have to hand churn ice cream as just one small element on a menu that takes an entire day to make, it's magic. And focusing on those intricate details as the backdrop to a moving love story, as you said, Connor, makes The Taste of Things one of my favorite films I've seen in a long time. Really loved it.
Oh, awesome. So glad to hear that you guys both loved it.
So let's get into our scene selection for the day, which we're going to call Baked Alaska. And as usual, beware of spoilers ahead.
Is there anyone there?
Yes, what you see?
Spoilers! Right ahead!
Thank you.
Connor, would you like to give us the scene beats, s'il vous plaît?
Oui, monsieur. This is the entire introductory sequence of the film, where we are thrust into the French countryside kitchen of our gourmand Dodin and his personal cook Eugenie as they prepare an intricate meal. With the help of housemaid Violette and her young niece Pauline, the team artfully prepares a multi-course menu, including dishes like consommé, vol au vent, turbo and hollandaise, and veal loin with braised lettuce, and of course the dessert showstopper, Baked Alaska. As they cook, serve, and dine, we simultaneously discover Pauline's undeveloped yet impressive palate, the astonishing level of haute cuisine coming from this kitchen, and the shared passion between the two leads and their fellow gourmands. Altogether, it clocks in around 35 minutes, and it's an elaborately choreographed, visually, again, stunning sequence that feels more like a ballet.
Yeah.
So I think we could start by saying that this movie is actually loosely based on a 1920s novel by the name, I'm going to butcher this,
Go for it.
La Passion de Dodin Buffon.
Close enough.
Is that pretty close?
We'll take it.
And so the director, he actually said he wanted to adapt the book after reading it, but he didn't necessarily like the story that was told in the book. Those were his words, not mine. And so he said that he made up another story that would have existed prior to the events in the book, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, it's a really interesting choice. And it's funny he puts it that way because in my mind, that's not really an adaptation.
Right.
I mean, it's like a wild swing of an adaptation, but it is an interesting choice and one I'm really glad that he made.
Yeah.
Because in the book, Eugenie is not a prominent character whatsoever.
Oh.
And has already died in the first chapter.
Weird. So different.
It doesn't seem centered on a romance and the wholesome shared love of food. That's one reason why we chose the scene, I think, as it's the first time we experience Eugenie as a wholly fleshed out character, and also the illness that seems to mysteriously befall her. They're effectively setting up the conflict and tragedy of the film, and we only get a subtle glimpse of what that is. Mark, I want to hear about another reason why we chose the scene, which is the on-screen detail and process.
Yeah, absolutely. So the movie starts at dawn, and we see Eugenie harvesting root vegetables and lettuce in the garden. And we almost get this like ASMR type sound as she cuts it. And it's so good. And we get this glimpse into her dedication and quiet confidence in preparation for the day's meal. And this is an all-day process for her.
Such a peaceful way to start the film, too. You can tell there's like almost a tranquil like quality, like a Zen like quality in this meal prep for her as she starts her day.
Yeah, it was nice to see the scene evolve because as we kind of start to unpack the idea that this is a very involved method and is taking place over the course of like several hours or a day, it's kind of cool that they go through all of this trouble to cook this elaborate meal for their little posse of gentlemen, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
And let's talk about the friends for a quick second. Like,
Yeah.
are these the luckiest guys on the planet? There's something so genuine and relatable to see the way that they light up and they shoot each other these little looks and reactions when a dish is introduced or a new wine is poured. Like, these guys absolutely love food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they all connect on this level. It's not just the lead romance surrounding food as the backdrop. It's actually this amazing group of friends, and that's part of why the movie's so wholesome.
Mhm.
And I think part of why we chose the scene too, because it does prominently feature them and introduces each of them.
Right.
We get to know them a little bit, and just seeing their astonished looks and stunned silence as each dish is brought out. It's just so fun to watch.
There's that nice conversation that happens in the kitchen afterwards where they come down as they're heading into the salon and ask why Eugenie doesn't dine with them like she used to. And she doesn't really offer an answer, but she says, I'm there in the room with you through the food, conversing with you. That's how I'm talking with you. And it feels like a great thematic way to introduce how food is seen between Benoit and Juliette's characters in the film, the way that they think about food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great cap off to the scene. Yeah, that taking place towards the end.
I want to talk about their relationship for a second
Mm-hmm.
because the whole movie's kind of predicated on them working together in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love the choice to highlight the culinary harmony between the lead couple rather than start the movie with a petty argument that needs to be reconciled by the end of the film.
Yeah.
We see them firing on all cylinders together with a level of comfort that's only seen with years of experience together.
Yeah. No, Mark, you're so right. I love that they did not go with a narrative pushing a narcissistic chef to change and grow throughout the course of the film. It's like, it's fun to watch, but it's been done.
Right.
Yeah, totally. And the relationship becomes so clear through the way that they're working together, right? But let's talk about the food for a second because it does play such a central role in this film and this scene in particular. I've never seen food have such a role in a film before. It's really amazing, the food that we're seeing on screen. It's I made the mistake of seeing this on an empty stomach last night, which I should not have done.
Critical error.
It's really mouthwatering, but Hung worked with a chef to create all of the food that is seen on screen. And the chef's name is Garnier. He's a 3 Michelin star chef from France. And actually, fun fact, he also played a small part in the film as the Prince of Eurasia's culinary officier de bouche that we see reciting the menu.
The menu that ended up taking them, what was it, like 8 hours to to get through?
One of them thought their stomach failed, and
That's cool that he has a cameo like that. I'm glad they did that.
Yeah, it's very fun.
Yeah.
And he worked together with his lead cook, Michel Nave. They were both on set for the entire shoot, and they would actually help make sure the actors were realistically portraying how experienced chefs would cook and move in the kitchen.
Yeah, and I believe he actually filmed some videos to give to the actors so that they could kind of observe the different techniques that he used. Rather than being able to make the dishes from scratch, they just wanted to use them as reference of how a really seasoned and comfortable chef would maybe move through some of these techniques.
Yeah, right. Almost like the attitude that they have, like the comfortability that they have. That really comes across clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. And that was one of my biggest questions leaving the film was how in a film that feels so naturalistic and free-flowing, how you would actually logistically go about this in having the food on screen looking like fresh and, boiling, steaming, all of the different processes of cooking actually happening in front of your eyes, and how oftentimes you need to retake for technical reasons.
Oh, yeah.
After the, 13th time sauteing the same piece of protein, it's not going to look like glistening and delicious as it appears in the final film.
Yeah. They actually used, I think, something around 70 pounds of meat.
Oh man.
My gosh.
Which is insane. But The other thing too is everything that they made is edible and was eaten by the crew. So, as you guys probably know, during commercial shoots and
Hmm.
maybe some photo shoots as well, oftentimes they'll substitute things like whipped cream for shaving cream because whipped
Oh,
cream
sure.
is obviously a dairy product. It can start to melt pretty quickly and it looks better when it's photographed and maybe like glue instead of milk.
Hmm.
Obviously, they didn't do anything like that for this movie because everything was edible. And Cody, as you mentioned too, a lot of times when these dishes came out of the oven, they would only have a couple seconds or maybe a
Right.
minute tops to kind of get that
Right.
beautiful shot.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like your camera department, your sound, light, everything has to be ready to go on a technical level because you're truly capturing magic in front of
Hmm.
you that's happening for real. So it's almost like documentary
Yeah.
in that way, in a
Mhm.
sense. And this movie actually reminds me a little bit of Hero Dreams of Sushi. I don't know if you guys
Oh,
have
yeah.
seen that,
Hmm.
but
Love
that's an actual documentary, but it kind of goes into that high level of process that you need
it. Hmm.
to make like the world's best dishes. You know, like you need to learn how to make rice for like 5 years before you even get to
Right.
touch a piece of fish.
Hmm.
It's a really cool watch if anyone out there hasn't seen that, but anyway, reminded me of that a little.
Yeah. And I think we'll dive into the specifics and logistics of the scene in a bit. But what
Yeah.
you just mentioned, the process, I think the appreciation for that process is really evident in this scene compared to how we're all familiar with modern cooking. What we see here, we don't need to go to the well to wash our vegetables like we're seeing
Mhm.
Violet doing. We don't need some rare machine in a storeroom that's set up in an entirely different part of the house away from the sunlight and warmth to make ice cream, for example. Like there's just so much work and effort to make a single meal.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely agree. And I think that's what I love the most about the scene and the movie is the appreciation you feel for these methods that are now to us just innate and
Mhm.
sometimes even manufactured for us.
Yeah, I think the scene is so perfectly and carefully put together. And you get a real sense of the amount of work that goes into it. Like you mentioned, Cody, it just takes a lot to create these dishes. You don't get treated to a cheap montage.
Yeah.
You know, the scene is 35 minutes long. And so in addition to actually seeing the meal getting put together, we also get to see the friends enjoy the meal, like you mentioned earlier, Connor.
Yeah.
And I feel like in most food movies, you either see one or the other and not both. And so it's nice that you get to see them enjoying the process of making it and then also enjoying the process of eating it and sharing it with friends.
Yeah.
Another moment to cover is Eugenie's conversation with Pauline about the artistry in cooking. We also hear her recite all of the ingredients in a sauce for Dodon, and then almost crying when Pauline tastes the baked Alaska. I mean, for me, that baked Alaska embodies the ingenuity that can come with haute cuisine and the desire to impress and share a love for food. What did you guys think of the whole baked Alaska scene and Pauline's reaction?
So I'll admit, the second I left the theater, I like typed in baked Alaska near me. And much to my chagrin, I couldn't find anything nearby. So yeah, I think it's just so visually impressive. He uses that flambéed sauce that he pours over it, which gives it that extra warmth and char right before serving it.
Yeah.
And then in addition, the meringue is just with the little spirals. It's just like an impressively looking dish.
And they kind of talk a bit about it in a bit of dialogue, you know, how the baked Alaska was invented, so to speak, and how the beaten egg whites insulate the ice cream from being
Right.
burned. So it's kind of this marriage of science and artistry, almost, you know, not to be too corny, but kind of in a way mirroring the two lead characters who bring something different to one another to create this cohesive whole. And it just speaks to the bookend of this amazing meal and a dessert that hasn't necessarily been around all that long.
Right,
So we're
right.
kind of seeing the height of cuisine and this new like avant-garde approach.
Yeah. Speaking about the time period too, I think it kind of indicates when this movie is happening. It's almost like right as modernity is being introduced as a turning point.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting the old view of cooking, recipes that have been around for years and years, passed down to each other. They're sort of, during that discussion up in the dining room, reciting the history of cooking in France, famous chefs. And we're also at a point where, Eugenie is sick and the doctors don't really know what's wrong with her. Maybe in the 20th century, there would be more information around that medical science, but it's sort of right at this precipice point of turning into a modern era.
Yeah, absolutely. Connor, I'd love to just go back really quickly to the small little vignette you were talking about where Dudon is testing Pauline's palate with the burgundy sauce. That's one of my favorite parts of the whole scene. And I want to call out specifically the edit, because Pauline is naming each ingredient.
Yes.
As she's tasting the sauce, and we're almost cutting to like a pseudo flashback of each ingredient, each bit of raw food being processed and cooked as she says it. I love those edits. And Mark, you referenced earlier the ASMR of it all.
Yeah.
It's these kind of like salt, like really clean cuts, and then you just hear the boiling, the frying, simmering, and the performances shaping the scene are so wholesome. Just seeing Dudon's grin as she's correctly guessing each ingredient just really warmed my heart sitting there.
His
and
forehead going back a little
bit.
Like
he's like super impressed by her. And
But what's so cool about that is that instead of just him nodding each time she gets something right, the flashbacks, as you called them, Cody, almost act as affirmations to everything that she's saying.
Yeah,
it's just
like,
a cool
correct.
visual way of doing that. And it's not after every single thing she says either, where it would kind of be intrusive. It's after she names a couple ingredients at a time.
Exactly.
And I think the English title, The Taste of Things, becomes clear with that part of the scene.
Yes.
Right? Like you're really understanding how things taste. You're gaining an appreciation for the work that went into it, everything that the cook poured into that dish, the conversation they're having with you, she's playing that back and understanding it herself.
Yeah, another reason why this scene works so well.
Mm-hmm. One small little fun thing, not sure if you guys caught it. We hear the word, speaking about English translations, we hear the words Baked Alaska, and it's what we're calling the scene, but did you catch what it's actually called in the film in French? What they refer to it as?
Norwegian omelet?
Yeah. And I think Eugenie says, even in the film, like she doesn't know why it's called that.
That's so funny.
I prefer Baked Alaska.
Me too. Yeah, it's got a good ring to it. Cool. Well, now that we've kind of talked through at a high level what the scene represents thematically, I think we could step into where it all takes place, what we're seeing on screen with the production design.
Nice.
So one thing that was pretty nice that I read about, you see it pop up in the credits. Hung actually dedicated this film to his wife, Yenke, who starred in his first feature, 1994's The Scent of Green Papaya. And she's worked alongside him on his films for the past 3 decades. So it's really sweet, dedicating this to her.
Yeah.
But one thing that he told us during the Q&A is she actually served as artistic director and costume designer on the whole film.
Wow.
So there's something really lovely about a husband and wife creative team crafting this story together visually.
And just to mirror that, Connor, really quick, Binoche and Majamel were actually married at one point, like years and years and years ago, and they have a child together.
Yeah.
And there's a great quote from Binoche about having worked on this with her ex-husband. Binoche says, "I can say that it's a gift to my daughter because Benoit is the father of my daughter and we've been separated for a long time. The film was sort of reconciliation between him and myself because we used Hong's script to tell each other, I love you, it's okay, everything's fine. I think for our daughter to have that, it's the best."
Oh,
so
that's
such a great
so
quote.
sweet.
Yeah, it is. And I think when we see real life mirrors of what we're seeing in a film, I think you feel that real life chemistry and passion. And
that is so cool. I actually read that their daughter sent Hung a message after the film saying thanks because she had just never seen her parents like that before in her life.
Wow.
So that's so special.
As we mentioned, Tran actually modeled this off of his life with his wife. And he has also mentioned that this is kind of the autumn of their life together as well.
Mm.
And his wife, Yenke, she chose everything that we see in the movie, the props, the costumes. She describes it as every single thing visually shown on screen she hand chose for the film. So she's there to make sure that the image and aesthetic quality is consistent throughout the film. So, Hung is focused with the actors on getting the emotion from that performances. She's making sure that visually that image that we're seeing represents the quality and craft of those performances and what we're seeing in the food.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of dialogue in this film and in this scene, like we mentioned. So there just needs to be another way to tell that story of sensuality and love. And she's making sure that we're getting that all visually and how beautiful everything looks in this scene.
Yeah. Let's talk about the kitchen environment itself and maybe some of the ingredients and food we're seeing.
Yeah, the kitchen where they cook is incredible. I want to live in that kitchen. We get this wonderful sense of the time of day through the windows, how the light is appearing on the walls.
Yeah.
And it's really a working kitchen. So much of it is working space. And the tables are kind of off to the side and functional where they, eat if they're in the kitchen versus the grand dining room that we're seeing upstairs. I love how the magic happens downstairs in the kitchen and then that presentation happens upstairs where it can be on full display in this dining area.
I was always a little nervous when they were carrying the dishes up the stairs.
Me too. I was waiting for a dish to fall or something, but it never does.
Right.
It never does. And I think that is the beauty of this movie is it doesn't fall into the trappings of another dramatic film where it'd be Violette is walking up the stairs and then drops the prize turbo dish, it just doesn't even go there. It's not about that.
I was definitely holding my breath though during those transportation moments.
Yeah. And it is kind of cool, speaking to the production design, the labyrinthian nature of the setting, them needing to walk quite far distances to get to certain destinations, and how it's the service stairway to get all the way up to the dining room. I believe the film was shot in an actual chateau, and you can really tell just by the texture of everything you're seeing around you, just the stone and old wood. Yeah. And I'm sure that they had to bring in certain elements to make it more period, but at the same time, opposite of a lot of films we're seeing right now these days, this feels squarely grounded in a place and everything we can just reach out and touch in front of us.
A lot of production design that we've been talking about has been this attention to detail.
Yeah.
And one thing I really appreciate that I read about the production was that they actually put a lot of thought into the vegetables that were shown on screen. So as compared to something that you would find in the supermarket today, maybe the carrots are straighter, you don't really see too many imperfections. Late 19th century vegetables and other ingredients would probably be a little bit more with blemishes and maybe just a little bit uglier to see. So I really like that attention to detail too.
That's a good point, Mark. And Dudon says something what we sacrifice in taste, we make up for in color.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the time, because not everything is chemically manufactured, you don't have that symmetry and that saturation of color in a lot of these ingredients, and you're relying on technique to bring some of that. So that was really cool to see. I'm curious what you thought of some of these dishes in front of us, everything from the consommé that they're first served all the way through the baked Alaska.
So I think for me, the one that stood out the most, or maybe looked like the most delicious, or one that I would really want a bite of, was the vol au vent, that puff pastry with the vegetables. It just it looked incredible in the way that they slice it and put it on the plate. The way they turn it towards the camera and the vegetables just slowly fall out and they look incredible. For whatever reason, it's not a meat-based dish, which, those looked stunning too, but that one really jumped out and grabbed me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I got goosebumps when they cut through the puff pastry.
Yeah. You just hear the crunch of the knife slicing through, and everyone's just
Yeah.
I also laughed to myself during the preparation of the braised veal where Eugenie takes it out of the oven like 3 different times and adds another layer into it of ingredients. It just like continues to get more and more mouthwatering each time.
Yeah. Mark, did you have a favorite dish that you saw on screen?
I would have to say it's probably the baked Alaska for reasons we discussed. It's just
there we go.
a stunning,
Yeah.
and it's dessert. So
Yeah, I agree. The baked Alaska was definitely like the marvel, which is, why it caps off the scene. But I also want to mention the turbot, which is a fish that I've never had, but I guess it's kind of like one of the more amazing tasting white fishes. And I've never tried it, but just seeing the actual, body of the turbot come out and being put into this like really uniquely shaped copper cooking vessel, like that was specifically prepared for this shape of fish. Again, it just speaks to the specificity at which these people work. Like this is an established dish. They have a vessel to specifically cook this in, like a hollandaise sauce.
Yeah.
Really liked seeing that.
Yeah, I'm glad you called that out. That was great.
So now that we've kind of discussed some of the production design, that's kind of one part of this, but we also have to capture it.
Yeah.
What did you guys make of the use of the camera in this scene?
Yeah, so it is a long sequence, and it almost feels in some ways like we're seeing one long take, but actually there are quite a bit of cuts within here. It's really that movement of the camera that lets it feel like it's one very long sequence, and we're getting whisked through the kitchen. We're alongside these actors as they're making these meals. Some of the longer takes we're seeing, it really allows the actors to play their part in the ballet movement that we're seeing on screen with the other actors. We're getting cameras sort of moving around the kitchen through Steadicam and single camera setup. It really makes the audience feel like they're right there with these characters preparing the meal in real time.
Part of that free-flowing ballet that you're talking about, Connor, I think comes from the decision by cinematographer Jonathan Richebois and using virtually the same lens throughout the entire film.
Okay.
Which is a 35 millimeter focal length, like, fairly wide. And that was a light Summilux C that he used throughout for its like crispness and sharpness to capture that food detail and the emotion on the characters' faces. He said that it allowed us to feel each movement while at the same time keeping that movement very discreet. We needed to be able to start parts of the cooking process from a very wide shot and move into a close-up. And the Summilux C allowed us to be very macro without applying any close-up attachment. So we would go almost inside the oven when the scene called for it. It's a very versatile lens. It's close to the human gaze, but slightly wider without the feeling of wide angle and like that distortion. And it's between a short and long lens, so we could do medium shots as well.
Cool.
And then, of course, there were minor exceptions throughout the film. One zoom lens was used like for outdoor establishing shots. That's the Ingenue Optimo. The film was shot on the Sony Venice, so it was shot digitally.
Oh.
But clearly in the color choices in like ISO, an older lens, these choices make it look very filmic and traditional.
Cool.
As well as kind of like, slightly more subtle color grade, like no big swings in terms of the grade. Using natural light and color temperature to speak for itself. Just like a really naturalistic, beautiful look.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Cody, because I feel like the food that's portrayed in the film looks absolutely amazing, but I don't feel like it necessarily steals the show either.
Right.
Because we don't really linger on these beauty shots of the final dishes. I feel like that would make it feel a little bit more artificial.
Yeah.
And so I think the emphasis of this scene in particular is the physical act of cooking rather than the final product per se.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I know you touched on this, but sound also plays a huge role in the way that the food comes to life on screen, and we're seeing the interactions between the characters. What did you think about the use of sound and the absence of music throughout the entire film?
Yeah, I think it was actually a really smart choice. There was a quote that he had mentioned that if he had used a score, it would only take away from the natural sounds. of the cooking. And so he wanted to keep the focus on the cooking. And he felt like if he had put music there, it would have just felt fabricated.
Yeah, totally agree. This was a brilliant choice. That clatter and ambience really acts as the calming score of the film. It actually brought me back to a time as a child where I used to be, when I was like really, really young, used to be particularly scared of like going to bed.
Okay.
And like, what would happen like in the darkness. And one thing I always requested, whether I had like a babysitter over or it was like my parents putting me to bed, is that I could always hear something else going on in the house, like the TV on or the clatter of doing dishes or cleaning up or something like that. It always was calming to me to hear some ambience happening like downstairs with my door open. This actually like flashed me back to that.
Oh, wow.
Hearing this light clatter. I particularly loved the use of birds and wildlife in the scene. It's always kind of like on the cusp of the frame. You never really see much, live wildlife. That's something to acknowledge as well, is like as we're seeing the quote unquote sacrifice of like all these animals for this food, which this wouldn't have been thought of as like unordinary in the time period.
Yeah,
but it's interesting to see that life outside, bringing the outside into the kitchen.
Yeah, you really feel like you're in the French countryside. It gives such a genuine feel to the film. I think we're all used to like the chef's table type of way that we see food on screen. It's all set to music, like classical music, and cut together like a music video or something. So for me, it was super refreshing to just live in the moment as the food is being made. And that absence of music really allows you to focus on the food more. You're hearing it being made. You're hearing those sounds of being in the room.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I'm not quite sure how this was done. And I first noticed it in the trailer, but the method of production audio in the film seems so distinct. Like the vocals don't seem too close to the mic. And for that reason, it feels like we're capturing an actual live scene.
Yeah.
Rather than like a predetermined series of events like you normally would in a film. It just makes it feel very raw and natural.
There's so much to appreciate in this film, but I have to say when I walked out of the theater, I wanted to give Foley artist Oliver Teese a handshake because his use of period-specific instruments and different culinary items, it worked so well.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any final thoughts on the scene or the film that we didn't cover that you want to bring up?
I just want to shout out how much food they actually made. I don't think I could eat even close to what is presented. It's just amazing how much food. It was like meal on meal on meal on meal. And then to top everything off, it was this giant dessert too. So I don't know how they were physically able to eat all of that.
One small thing I wanted to bring up, if both of you noticed it and felt maybe almost out of place in the film, but the character of Violette, can we talk about how they like roasted her and said she can barely boil water? It was so like unexpectedly funny and petty at the same time.
And she's shown as being pretty capable for what we see too. That's the other funny part.
Right. Like she is sitting next to Pauline. They're tasting one of the dishes that the cooks has prepared in the later portion of the film. And she like almost laughs, like spitting it out because presumably it's bad. So she knows what she's doing or talking about. But I just found that like to be really funny.
Yeah, it's like what level she must be at, like a fairly competent level compared to like us.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But maybe to these gourmands, it's like she can't boil water, but she's actually good. Yeah, I mean, I guess just to cap off the scene and the film as a whole, this was a complete home run. I think we'd all agree. I just sat giddy in my seat watching this, and while
me too.
There was sadness and tragedy involved in the film in equal measure. There's a ton of hope. And I think this is the perfect film to watch for the moment we're in right now. We need some hope. And I really do think people would love watching this. So head out to the theater and check it out if you can. That's the taste of things.
And it's no coincidence that it was released on Valentine's Day. I feel like that's so fitting for the wide release date because this movie is all about the love that we have for each other and the things that are right there in front of us, but maybe we don't appreciate like we should.
Well said. Yep, this will be a Valentine's Day rewatch going forward. Yeah. Well, thank you both as always for your thoughts on the film, and a big thank you to our listeners and fellow movie enthusiasts for reliving this scene with us. Do you have a favorite scene from The Taste of Things? You can email us at contact@Scenecraft with any of your thoughts or comments, or follow us on Instagram, X, TikTok, and Threads @Scenecraft for any scheduling updates and news. You can support the podcast by leaving us a review or star rating on your platform of choice. We would really appreciate that. And a very special thanks to Jordan Summerlad for our theme music. This has been Scenecraft, where we break down the craft behind our favorite scenes. See you all next time.